Hello, my name is Flore Vallée from Research Institute SystemX and Centrale Supélec, and I'm very happy to present you this work conducted in the Anthropologist chair entitled Matching Synthetic Populations with Personas with a test application in the case of urban mobility. So our initial questions is to elaborate or to investigate the synergies between synthetic populations and persona-based approaches. So here an example of personas we developed for a workshop on robo-mobility. So what are personas and synthetic populations? Personas, as a reminder, are fictional user models which are very commonly used in user experience design for communication, but also to design new products and services. And they can sometimes be criticized for their lack of solid empirical ground. Personas are usually generated in a creative way based on interviews and observations, but more recently with more quantitative approaches based on big data, as exemplified with the persona generator on the right. Now, what is a synthetic population? It is a statistical representation of, for instance, 10% of a real population, and here each agent or person is modeled, and it is a basis for building multi-agent simulation in the transport field. So we notice, of course, some commonalities between personas and synthetic populations, and we seek to connect the two. So the proposition of the paper is to be able to generate personas, not only qualitatively, but also in correlation with the agent of the synthetic population, and conversely, to be able to inform the population generation by qualitative data of personas. So here is the proposition. You've got the synthetic population on the left-hand side based on census data, transport surveys, company-related data, and spatial data, which we are going to cluster into classes, and this is going to enable the development of more statistically informed personas, and we can find several of them on the right hand side, also informed by some qualitative inputs. So we've got a case study for studying the urban mobility in Paris based on a synthetic population generated by one of the co-authors for Paris. And 8 classes were generated thanks to a Gaussian mixture model. And the classes were attached to the 20 districts of Paris. So for the 8 clusters, example of cluster 5, which is a cluster of senior people, average age around 70, and retired for socio-professional category. So here's the cluster distribution per districts. So obviously the clusters are not equally distributed in the Paris area, as you can see here on this graph. So what did we do? We took some qualitative personas which were already generated for a study, an existing study for Paris, and then we tried to match them to the clusters, testing their age and position, adjusting their living area regarding the existing data from the synthetic population, and finally matching the personas to the clusters. And here is the final outcome, a set of personas which are now attached to a probable living area in Paris. So, of course, the couples, for example, Leila and Julian, belong to different clusters, but they are going to be settled in the same district. And here, cluster 4, there are no representative because they are young children which are not in the persona set. What can we do next? We can also integrate activity chains which are provided with a synthetic population, meaning that for cluster 1, here we've got the distribution of all the activities that are possible, and the most frequent one is home, work, home at the very bottom, home or home education, home. So, which means what can we do here? We can have personas supplemented now with their activities, and for these sets of personas, then we can attach them to a certain activity, and the 5 activity chains here can account for about 45% of the population. And we can connect, for instance, Camille, who is a student, to the home education, home activity, and Leila, who is a worker, to home, work, home. So conclusion now, we proposed an approach to generate personas based on synthetic populations, and also to enable, in the meantime, a collaboration between UX designers and data scientists. This was exemplified for Paris area, and now we envisage the creation of future personas, but of course being aware that we need to avoid a temporal mismatch between the current aggregated data and the future projections we could make. Here are the references, and thank you very much for your attention.